Hi everyone, welcome back to Espresso AI. If we've not met before, my name is Helena, and this is where I share non-technical AI education and resources to help you actually use and implement AI in your everyday life and business. In this mini tutorial, I'm going to show you step by step how to set up your own AI assistant and then how to actually integrate it as part of a workflow so that you can stop using AI as just a tool and you can start using it as part of this leveraged AI system. And this is where you're really going to see AI really go to work for you. You're going to stop using it just in ChatGPT. You're going to stop using just text-based prompts, and you're actually going to train your own AI to do something useful for you. So to get started, we are going to set you up within OpenAI and you're going to set up an assistant. This is very similar to the process of setting up a custom GPT, except instead of it just being within the ChatGPT user interface, you're actually going to create it in OpenAI. And what this is going to do is allow you to connect your assistant with other pieces of software via API calls and put it in as part of a workflow. So you're going to be able to have this really, really smart workflow system where you have got this integrated AI element. There's two websites we're going to be looking at today. The first is the OpenAI Developer Playground, and that sounds far more technical than it actually is. And the second website we're going to be using is make.com. Make is very similar to Zapier. The reason I am showing you this scenario in Make today is because you actually get more free tokens to produce workflows in make.com than you do in Zapier. So if you're looking at a cost-effective way to generate one of these kind of workflows yourself, then I would start with make.com because it is just a little bit more cost-effective, particularly for workflows that you're going to be using on a reasonably frequent basis. So to get started, we're going to train our AI assistant, and very similar, as I said, to setting up a custom GPT. So the website you want to go to is platform.openai.com, and you're going to navigate to the Assistants tab. So on the left-hand side, you will see a section of columns. I cannot show you on the screen because if I do, you're going to see my own personal API key, but you want to go to, I'll put it on the screen for you, platform.openapi.com and then /assistants, but you will also see the assistants tab come up on the left-hand side and you're going to see this dashboard appear in front of you. It is very simple. It's far more simple than you would think, and also far more simple than everyone else on the internet will make it out for you to make this out to be. So the first thing we want to do, as I said, is give our assistant a name. We need to identify what we want this assistant to be doing. And you should be training assistants for very, very narrow set of objectives. So a narrow set of skills. What do you want this assistant to do? For example, I have got a newsletter assistant that helps me write my weekly newsletter. I've also got an assistant that helps me repurpose content into short form video. I have an assistant that specifically just takes content inspiration ideas and turns it into a marketing calendar. So a narrow set of objectives is what we want our assistant to be doing. Once you have decided on exactly what it is you want your assistant to be doing for you in your life or in your business, there are a whole plethora of things that you could train an assistant to do for you, even things like delivering client work, which is something that I would highly, highly recommend. We want to come in here and we're going to give it a name. So just for the purposes of this test, let's call this one Susie. And then you're going to set some system instructions. And in here, we are going to keep things quite light and quite basic because where we want the real magic to happen is inside the training manual. So in here, I'm just going to paste in some system instructions. I'm actually going to take this from one of my other assistants, Ivy, which is used as part of my marketing team. But let me just run you through what these system instructions say. Each week, your job is to review a list of short, unstructured content ideas submitted by Helena into her Notion contents vault. That's where this AI is retrieving its information from. These may be half-formed thoughts, quotes, screenshots, voice note transcriptions, hooks, routines, or raw opinions. So I am putting all of this data into my Notion, and then this AI assistant is coming in and retrieving it and turning it into content ideas for me. You process these inputs and extract clarity. You identify strong themes, interesting storylines, and angles that potential become part of longer form content. Your output is intended for Whitney, Helena's newsletter GPT. So you can see how I'm connecting here multiple AI assistants as part of a workflow. You must organize and summarize the strongest ideas, recommend 1 to 2 compelling newsletter themes, provide context or raw thoughts to support Whitney's writing, filter out repetition, fluff, or anything not actionable. Format your output like this: primary theme suggestions, etc., etc. And we just go through some formatting, light formatting elements in here. so that this GPT, this assistant, has got an overall insight as to what it is that they should be doing. You can then select your model. So at the moment in mid 2025, we're looking at GPT 4.0, but you could select in here any manner of models. If you're doing something that's got more analysis to it, where you're asking your AI assistant to maybe read a lot of text, to produce reports for you, maybe to deliver some client work where you want a reasoning model. And what a reasoning model is an element of thinking. Now I say that very, very loosely, because all a reasoning model is it's got a few more tokens, i.e. steps. So instead of you prompting back and forth, the model is going to predict, i.e. use tokens to understand what it thinks you are going to ask it next. That's all a reasoning model is. That's the only real difference between a reasoning model and something like GPT 4.0, is that there's more steps before it gives you an answer, i.e. it's working through its own prompting. It's not thinking, it's still statistically predicting what you would like it to, what it thinks you would like it to say. I hope you're following this. But that is the difference between a reasoning model and something like GPT 4.0. So for now, we're going to keep in GPT 4.0 as our model. We want to enable file search. We can enable code interpreter. We want the response format to come back as text. Multimodality is available in here. We don't want anything like JSON. We just want it to come back in as text. Now, next up, we've got your training manuals. These are the most important thing about developing an AI assistant like this. And this is actually where you should be spending the majority of your time. Setting up an assistant in the back end of OpenAI and connecting it via API keys is incredibly simple. Where the detail comes into play is where you see the training manuals and how good the training data is that you give to your AI assistant. So for this, you want to show it what good looks like. You want to give it your brand, tone of voice. You want to give it as much insight and information as you possibly can so that it can achieve the actual outcome that you're looking for this specific assistant. So in this case, we're looking at an ideas generator, but if you had something where it was delivering client work, client reports, my newsletter assistant, for example, you want to train it on examples of what good looks like and what you expect from it in a high amount of detail. As the only way that you're going to get good outputs from these assistants. So when you're ready and you've got your training manuals, I would recommend you have a minimum of at least 4 different manuals. You're telling it different things. You could combine it into one long document. I just keep them separate for the ease of updating any of these manuals over time. And then you're just going to click and add the files here. Select them from your browser, select them from your desktop, wherever it is you're keeping your files, upload them. And then you have got a fully trained assistant in the back end of OpenAI. So you're using those large language models of ChatGPT that ChatGPT is built on. You're using the power of an OpenAI to power your own AI assistant. Now I'm going to show you how you actually connect it as part of a workflow. So we've named this one Susie just for this demo, but I'm not actually going to set Susie live because you've got this quite irrelevant key here that I can't really put on the internet, but I'm going to show you what it looks like when you connect an assistant up inside a workflow. So I've just hopped over to make.com. As I said at the start, this is the software that we're going to use to connect your AI assistants together. Now, if you've taken anything like my AI for Business program or Automations for Business, this will look very, very familiar to you. Inside those programs, I go through in detail all of my workflows that I've got set up in my business. You see every single one of them for all different categories, all of my assistants and how we connect them all, as well as all of the blueprints. So if this is something that you're looking to set up in your business, then I really recommend that you check out those 2 programs, AI for Business and Automations for Business. They're very complementary. I would say start with AI for Business. It'll help you set up the fundamental structure and systems and replicate something like this, and then add on Automations for Business once you're up and running and you want to add more workflows to things. But let me show you now just a quick demo of how you would then connect this AI assistant as part of a workflow. So what we've got going on here, this is my marketing calendar, and this is how I create my marketing calendar every single week. What we're doing here is we are generating, I'll just pull it on my face. From one piece of long form content, I am repurposing one singular long form piece of content into my entire marketing calendar for the week ahead. So in my case, I write a flagship long form piece of content being my newsletter. And it then gets analyzed by ChatGPT, by my AI assistants, and repurposed into ideas and then actual content creation itself. And eventually it lands up in Notion. So what I've got going on here is this automation is watching for files being dropped into Google. So every single time I send a newsletter, another automation sends that exact newsletter in a Word document and pops it into a Google Drive for me. Where this automation picks it up, says, okay, great, there's a new newsletter for the week. Now we're going to create the content for the week ahead. So the newsletter arrives in my Google Drive. The file is downloaded. It's put into a new Google Doc, which is then sent to my first AI assistant. And let me open this up and show you what we've got here. I am connecting Callie. Callie is my content assistant GPT. Exact same process to set up Callie as you have seen in the demo we have just done of how to set up an assistant in OpenAI. The role is the user, and then I've got a prompt here for connecting Callie into my content calendar and actually mapping her in so that she repurposes that content from the original source, from my long form piece of content, takes that full body of content and repurposes it into my weekly marketing calendar. We then split that information up into different sections. And the reason I split this up is so that it can sit nicely in a table inside Notion, and that I can get another assistant to come in and actually take that insight from Callie and say, okay, hey, now I am going to repurpose this into short form video content, which is what's happening in this module here. It is picking up that insight and that information from that JSON module you just saw, that purple JSON, and it is repurposing the content. So I've connected another assistant here. This is Kate. Kate is trained specifically on short form video content in my exact style. Every time I produce short form content online, that video automatically gets dropped into a training manual, which is again automatically training Kate. So this is a self-fulfilling cycle where my AI is consistently learning. Every time I do something, my AI is learning how to get better week on week. So it learns from the data in my business. It learns from my style and my tone of voice and how I'm showing up. It learns exactly what I'm saying, where I'm at in my life. So at the moment, I'm kind of in and around Europe for the summer. I'm actually back at home for a week at the time I'm recording this, but for the most part this summer, I am spending my summer in Europe, in Italy and Greece. So all of my AI assistants are now feeding out content based on the fact that they know just from the transcripts of my short form video content that I am not in the UK at the moment, that I am working abroad, I'm spending time with my kids and my family. I don't need to tell it where I am or what I'm doing because it's picking it up from transcripts. It's self-learning all of the time. And that's a huge benefit for having trained AI assistants and having workflows that help those assistants to learn from everything you're doing instead of just using ChatGPT in your phone, prompting it, and you're having to tell it things all of the time. You might be using things like custom instructions, but this is how you really, really use it to learn from you and create this really, really smart system. Anyway, I digress. So part of this workflow, what we're doing, as I said, is we're then connecting Kate, my short form video assistant. The role for her is the user. And then we're saying, hey, take this piece of content and rewrite it from the calendar. Take the calendar ideas and write the scripts for the video content. Think of the hooks, think of the scripts, write it in this exact style, and then feed all of that information back into the marketing calendar. And then where it all ends up is in this singular Notion database that I can go into. So as soon as I've written my newsletter and it's published and it's ready to go, I know that this workflow is going to pick up the entire thing. And I'm going to go from having one piece of long form content, I'm going to have it repurposed into an entire marketing calendar. And then from that, I'm going to get all of the short form video content for the week ahead. And I have this not just for one business, I have got this sitting across 4 different businesses that all produce long form content. So I am repurposing this workflow and having it actually work for me in multiple places. Now, I've shown you this demo today for how I set up as part of a marketing team and how I produce a marketing calendar workflow, but you could really do this for any aspect of your business. And I really encourage you to try it out, to start creating some assistants and start connecting them inside Make. The other thing that I would really recommend that you consider doing, and I do a lot, and it's one of the reasons why I can create so much leverage and scalability in my business, is to train AI assistant to actually do revenue generating work from you. You know, this is kind of slightly more of a back end operational task in the sense that I am getting my AI assistants to connect into a marketing workflow here, which is in a sense generating me money. But I would also look at how can you create AI assistants that are generating you income either as products themselves, where you are creating these AI assistants that you monetize in some way, or they're actually delivering your client work for you, whether that be client support work, delivering actual client delivery, depending on what your business model is, and having a think about how can I take what you've seen in this video and actually apply it to the real world scenarios that you have got going on in your life, because that is how you create leverage and takes you from using AI as this tool that is a productivity hack to actually using it as this fully integrated revenue generating system. And that is where the magic happens. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful. If you have, then please let me know in the comments below what kind of videos you would like me to do next. What would you like to see from me? And if you are interested in building out something, as I said, that's more revenue generating, where you're actually integrating it into your business, then I am hosting a 1-day, 2.5-hour implementation workshop where I'm going to be walking you step by step in a lot more detail, done with you, how you would set up one of these AI assistants in 2.5 hours. So I'll leave that link below as well. I will see you in the next video.